Hello and welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs podcast. My name's Kevin McCaffrey, and that is it. That's all we have for you today in terms of people. I'm going to talk for a bit, but this is going to be a solo episode. As you know, usually I'm joined by our good friend, your good friend, Adam Mamawala. But no bullshit. My man is currently modeling. He's doing a 2-day modeling gig for, I believe, stock photo things. So he is not going to be here joining me today. But he will be back as normal next week. And next week we will get on with our normal MLB season preview and predictions and sort of go down the whole league and recap everything about the trades and the way more free agent signings that have happened and make our predictions for the year. And the week after that, we'll do our Cubs-centric Cubs season preview. So that's what you got to look forward to here on Away Games. And if you would like to, I mean, I assume if you're listening to us, you probably do follow us on Twitter, but that's where I'd say we do a lot of our best work. So go follow us over at Away Games Pod on Twitter. We're at Away Games Pod on Instagram. And you can get us reacting to all the Cubs news in real time there. And you can play a game, too, if you listen to this, because Adam and I both have the login. I feel like we're two distinctly different tweeting styles, and you get to pick which tweets were written by Adam and which were me. So I'll give you a little preview of what we're going to do today. I'm going to run down some of the Cubs news that has popped up over the last week, a little bit of a reset on the offseason, and then we're going to get into just what I've been thinking about as a Cubs fan a lot lately, because we've come to the end of the offseason, it feels like, in a functional way. And the Cubs decided to completely sit out what is probably the greatest shortstop free agent class of all time, while they had all the money space and a clear opening at shortstop. And they chose to fill that with Drelton Simmons. So that's a choice, certainly. And now all the shortstops have signed. Trevor Story's in Boston. As you know, Correa is in Minnesota. So I think the Cubs roster that we're looking at now is what we're going to have, barring some big surprising trade or an extension that could change everything that I'll also talk about. But I'm basically at the point now, personally, where I'm trying to figure out how much of my time this team is worth this year. So we're going to talk about that in a bit, but let's talk about fun news first. Obviously, this is, as we said, most of the free agents have been signed. It seems like the Cubs have made all their biggest decisions that they're going to make here, and their biggest decisions, of course, signing Marcus Stroman. And if you listen to the podcast, you know that was, I think, for both Adam and I, the number one pitcher we wanted to see the Cubs sign. I think, you know, in an ideal world, you would have someone in this rotation who's throwing a bit harder than Stroman, than Wade Miley, than Hendricks. It's a group of soft throwers, but that doesn't mean it's the same type of pitcher. There's a great diversity to the way these guys pitch, and Stroman made his debut this week, and if you see, it's not only is he good, but he is on the field very fun. He was already busting out his little sort of strikeout strut going on, and he's not the biggest strikeout pitcher, but he has a lot of fun when he does it, and I think that's a signing that we can feel very good about as Cubs fans. That's the kind of signing this team should be making in general, especially in a season when they had absolutely no money on the books functionally coming in. They could sign anyone they wanted, and signing Marcus Stroman, whether you preferred Robbie Ray or Kevin Gausman, you can't argue with what Marcus Stroman has done and how he projects for the next couple years. So very excited about that. And Seiya Suzuki, the Japanese 27-year-old outfielder, it seems like he's going to be playing almost exclusively right field, which is his most comfortable position. He's won some Gold Gloves in Japan. But I think the main reason you sign this guy is for his bat, and the projections vary a little bit. The Zips projection has him at 2.6 wins above replacement. It's in his first year, ranging down to about 1.6 at the end of his 5-year deal, which is probably on the conservative side, I think we can say. Steamer, another one of the most, I feel like one of the most popular projection systems has him at a WRC plus of 140, which, to break that down for you non-super dorks, WRC plus is weighted runs created plus, and plus 140 just basically means this guy, they're projecting to be 40% better than league average at the plate, which is a star. I mean, that's talking prime Anthony Rizzo years offensively with the Cubs, and if that happens, great. The sort of news from this week, it seems like Jason Hayward is getting a lot of reps in center field, and I mean, you get it, because you want your biggest signing, and who's looking now like really, depending on what happens with Willson Contreras, possibly the centerpiece of your offense on this team. You want him to be playing his best position. But it seems like with Jason Hayward getting reps in center field in spring training, it seems like the Cubs are now thinking, or at least preparing Jason Hayward to be playing a lot in center, which you get if Suzuki's in right. And I'm sure when Suzuki's DHing, maybe you'll see Hayward in right. But what sucks about that is Hayward's main value comes as a plus defensive right fielder. He's still plus out there. He's not the all-world defender that he was several years ago, but he's still a very, very good defensive right fielder. And if you put him in center, you're now taking away the main thing that's good about Jason Hayward on the field and making it kind of average as an average center fielder. And if his bat is what we've come to realize it probably just is at this point for Jason Hayward, man, that kind of sucks for a team that you're hoping would compete. Also, I think a good number of fans were interested in seeing something like something of a Ortega-Hermosillo platoon out there in center. Michael Hermosillo, athletic outfielder, athletic center fielder who grew up a Cubs fan too, big Sammy Sosa guy. He was injured at the end of last year, but absolutely murdered the ball in AAA, and then came up and did well. He's the right-handed half of that, and Ortega, as you know, was basically the Cubs' best leadoff hitter for most of last year. So for most of the second half of last year, post-sell-off. So that looked like an interesting platoon, and if Hayward is playing in center, we might not see as much of that. So that's something to look out for. Otherwise, news-wise, we've got... let's start with the Cubs stuff. The Ricketts family, your faves, they are now, after their many biblical losses, after being unable to spend money at all in what now looks like the turning point of this Cubs era, the offseason after the 95-win 2018 team, when Harper and Machado were free agents, and by all accounts, Bryce Harper was very interested in coming here with his little dog Wrigley, and they simply could not pony up the cash. Well, great news if you're a Ricketts fan. They have $4 billion or so lying around that they're just ready to use to buy a soccer team in England, Chelsea FC, which is a team that just had to move on from its previous owner because of Roman Abramovich was his name, because of his Russian ties and some shady stuff. He had to take his yachts and go home, basically. So now, after one Russian oligarch had to leave Chelsea, they're looking for an American oligarch, and they're checking out the Ricketts. And this is very funny to me. Not that the Ricketts clearly have so much more money than they said, which, if I think most reasonable people knew, they've never been in money trouble a day in their life. They're never going to be. But they've got several billion to throw at this soccer team, while during their run as Cubs owners, just FYI, the Cubs are the fourth most valuable team in baseball, according to Forbes, and the payroll has averaged 10th in the league. 10th in the time the Ricketts have had the team. So just so you know, as far as what they're spending on the team, that's what it is. But Chelsea fans are hating the idea of the Ricketts coming over. Hashtag say no to Ricketts has been trending in England. And one big sticking point has been, remember those racist emails from your boy, Joe Ricketts? The patriarch of the family, the racist and Islamophobic emails. So obviously that's kind of old news to us. We're aware of it as Cubs fans, but in England, they're finding out about this in a fresh way. And I think it is hilarious that the Ricketts family, and specifically Joe Ricketts, might be too racist for British football. Guys, I don't know if you follow soccer, British football, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you follow it, but not the best history of race relations. There's been some pretty bad hooliganism, some pretty bad stuff over there, and even them, they're trying to get better about it and have gotten better in some ways over recent years. They've taken racial abuse towards players pretty seriously lately, but I think it is very funny that in a league that has a lot of racist history, they're like, oh no, the Ricketts might be too much, actually. They might not, maybe they can't even come here. So who knows? As I'm recording this on Wednesday, there's been no real movement besides the fact that the Ricketts are currently considered the front runners to buy that. So as Cubs fans, maybe that interests you somewhat. Also, Willson Contreras, the Cubs' longtime catcher, and obviously, if you look at this lineup, basically the centerpiece of this team, a guy who's turned into a leader on this team, who has improved himself markedly with framing, defensively, and has been one of the premier offensive catchers in the game, which is a low bar to clear, but he's done it. Willson Contreras, the Cubs did not come to a deal with him in arbitration. So what that means, they didn't come to a pre-arbitration deal. They didn't agree on a contract. So what that now means is that this moves forward to a hearing. And that doesn't sound like too much, I don't think, at first. But something that I think is worthwhile to look at is between the years of 2011 and 2018, when Theo Epstein was running this team, no player ever went to an arbitration hearing. That means the front office and the player's representatives were able to come to a deal before going to what is sometimes a contentious kind of hearing. Theo never did it until Justin Grimm in 2018 was the first time, but he went 7 years without it. We got Jed in charge now, and Jed and the Contreras camp could not get it done. So, does that sound familiar to you guys at all? Jed Hoyer not getting it done in a contract situation with one of the better Cubs. Have you ever heard that before a million times over the past year and a half or so? So, I think how this is most relevant to us as Cubs fans is it seems to be a hint that, and not a good hint if you're someone who wants Willson Contreras extended with the Cubs, if they can't come to a deal on this in this 1 year sense, when the Cubs are very likely looking to deal Contreras anyway at the deadline. I don't think that speaks too well to the possibility of these two sides getting together on a long-term contract. I very much hope I'm wrong on that. I very much want Willson Contreras extended. I think a team that is serious about not punting multiple seasons, and a team that made a couple of moves, as we saw, to try to compete or to try to have some fraction of your roster competing over the next couple years with Stroman and Seiya Suzuki. It seems like locking down one of, at worst, the top 3 to 5 catchers in baseball would be something you would focus on. And this makes me feel like there's a good chance they're not really seriously considering that. And that is sort of the final straw for me, not final straw, but I guess final straw into bringing me to a point where I'm thinking about my own Cubs fandom and how much time I can realistically commit to a team and a front office who has made the choices they've made going into this year. We'll do one more piece of news real quick before we get into it a little deeper. And the piece of news, this is about baseball stuff. I guess 2 pieces of news. One, there's a new Shohei Ohtani rule where if a team chooses to DH their pitcher, designate hit their pitcher, not dry hump their pitcher, if they're choosing to use their pitcher as a DH, then when the pitcher is removed from the game, they can still remain as a hitter. To me, I think this is a kind of no downside. If you want to use your pitcher as a hitter and vice versa, great. That sounds awesome in this moment, it seems like mainly that just means that Shohei Ohtani doesn't have to leave the game as a hitter early just because he doesn't go a complete game. So, I mean, that's just good for watching baseball, I think. But also, I think a fun sort of side effect of this could be that if you're talking about openers and stuff, there's more players coming up that do have some of that two-way ability. And it seems like teams, even in the minor league level, at the drafting level, are a little more willing to look at players a little longer with that sort of two-way deal. And I think what this could lead to, if you're getting creative with it, is using an opener strategy where you have a guy who can pitch, not Ohtani level, but someone who can throw an inning, be a reliever, come in, throw one inning, maybe two, but remain as the hitter the rest of the game. And I think that is something that could be kind of cool and interesting. I'm not a big fan, personally, of the opener in general, but this would be a way that at least would be creative. If you're going to use an opener, to me, it's a little more fun and exciting if the guy is also hitting. So I will be curious to see if that sort of is something that any teams look into doing and could be kind of interesting. The other thing is the Ghost Runner is back. Whatever you want to call it. The Ghost Runner, the free runner on second base. There has been an agreement that we're going to see more of that. And here's several, like, I've seen a weird amount of people online who are loving it. I guess my main thing is if your sport has to create rules out of the blue to make your games not exist as much, that's not good. Basically, baseball's being like, can we fucking end this game already? We're tied after 9. Can we go home? Can we get out of here? And to me, that sucks. I don't think your sport should be in the business of trying to wrap it up. You know, in comedy terms, when a comedian is told to get off stage, the booker or the host or whatever will hold up a light in the back. It's called giving you the light to let you know, okay, one more minute. We shouldn't be giving our sport the light here. Also, it's just wildly arbitrary to throw a guy in second. I know players don't want to play long games. Well, boo fucking who? It's the sport you're playing, and I get it, but we have more pitchers than we've ever had in terms of who is making up this roster. I don't sort of accept the argument for why we should be enjoying the Ghost Runner. But if you enjoy it, congratulations, fucking great. You're going to get another year of weirdos who just made the last out showing up on second so we can wrap it up and go home from the game a little earlier. So that's official. And at this point, what else is official is something I'd like to tell you is that we have some new friends over at DraftKings. And DraftKings, I'll tell you right off the top, is a service I use. I enjoy gambling quite a bit, actually. And it is my favorite. I have 2 gambling apps, but DraftKings is my favorite. And they are joining us now. DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook is officially live with mobile sports betting right here or there in the Lincoln State. I'm in New York. You guys are probably, many of you in the Lincoln State. To celebrate Illinois going mobile, new customers can bet just $5 on any team of your choice and get $200 in free bets instantly. It's that simple. You sign up in front of the bean or sitting on your couch, your grandma's couch. As long as you're in Illinois, you can sign up right from the palm of your hand and get free bets instantly. So head to the DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook app now. Do it right now. To check out all the great promotions and features, including same-game parlays. It's safe, secure, reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So download that and use the promo code AWAYGAMES. That's what we're going to tell you this week at DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook. You download the DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook app now. Promo code AWAYGAMES. Bet $5 on any team of your choice. Get $200 in free bets instantly. That simple, baby. 21 and over, Illinois only. Eligibility restrictions apply. So there you go. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. So before we get into it, let's do a little reset what the Cubs have done this year, this offseason. Marcus Stroman, Seiya Suzuki. These are deals that winning teams would make for solid money, good money, Guys who you hope can be a top-of-the-rotation starter in Stroman's case. He's 31 years old. He is particularly athletic. He's durable. This is a winning team move. Seiya Suzuki, 5 years. He's 27 years old. The deal's for 5 years. This is who you're going to have in right field, God willing, for your Cubs teams for the next 5 years. It's a long time. These are great deals. Absolutely. Even if neither player is your first choice, I think this is a case where you have to give credit to the front office for identifying 2 top of the line players, going and getting them. Great. We also have Jonathan VR. Okay, Jonathan VR's got some pop. He doesn't get on base a lot, but when he does, he likes running around. He's got some versatility. He mainly plays some third base, some second base. He can play short, but probably not so much at this time in his life. The other shortstop we got for $4 million, and Drelton Simmons, who catches a lot of balls and out there, great defensive shortstop, one of the best of all times. And, he's leaving himself open to catching as many diseases as he can, too. He's not a big vax guy. So he's doing that. And his bat is basically, what if a pitcher was bad at hitting? He gives you absolutely nothing on offense. So that's your Drelton Simmons at shortstop. And it's just going to be really fun to see Simmons, Nico Horner, and Nick Madrigal, maybe a middle infield rotation that combines for, let's say, 6 homers. At DraftKings, you going over or under combined, let's say combined 8.5 for those 3. Tell us at away games if you have an opinion. Drew Smiley. Remember that? Drew Smiley, he was actually in the Cubs organization, and then they signed him, rehabbed him, and then dealt him to Texas to save some money when they re-signed Cole Hamels. That's a thing the Cubs love to do. So he's back. He's probably going to get some starters innings here. Michael Gibbons, who's hard-throwing, nasty, probably going to be your closer. The kind of guy who, I don't know if he's who you think of as a closer on a real contending team, but a guy who seems perfectly set up to deal at the deadline, which is something a lot of these new signings have in common. David Robertson, 37-year-old relief pitcher coming off an injury, but when he was good, he was very good. Chris Martin, 36-year-old big boy, very good relief pitcher with Atlanta last year. Our old friend Jesse Chavez is back. Daniel Norris, a 29-year-old left-handed pitcher who wants to start, but has also worked as a reliever through most of his career. These are mostly the guys we're looking at in terms of who the Cubs have signed off of what is a very strong free agent class that was out there to sign. And Yan Gomes as well. Yan Gomes, very solid signing if he's a backup catcher. 34 years old, and they signed him to back up Willson, and let's also throw Wade Miley in there, who they picked up on waivers. Wade Miley, who had a really good year last year, and he's definitely going to be in the rotation. Okay, so that is who the Cubs acquired this year. It feels like they're done, right? The roster is very big. They've piled a lot of players in here. Clint Frazier was another guy they picked up on waivers before the lockout, too, who has some upside. That's an interesting signing, too. CMDH, maybe a little corner outfield. What this roster looks like to me is that the Cubs cannot wait to sell at the deadline again. There's one thing that could have changed me on that and made me very excited about watching the Cubs actually this year, and that's if they chose any one of the top-level shortstops, which was a glaring hole for this team. They had all the money in the world. They're sitting here right now, guys, $165 million payroll. Okay, that sounds fine, right? The ceiling is $230 million. $65 million beneath that, so keep that in mind. When the Cubs decided to pass on Correa, okay, fine. Pass on Story, fine. Pass on Javi, the thing that made me the angriest, but okay, they did it. Pass on Marcus Semien. Pass on Corey Seager. They sat out the best free agent shortstop class of all time when they had the most financial flexibility they're probably, hopefully, almost ever going to have looking forward from here. They chose to completely sit that out, fill the spot with a no-bat, very good glove, and Drelton Simmons, and I guess Jonathan VR, who in a vacuum, fine signings on their own. But this roster, with all the relievers I just named, which is such a bulk of who the Cubs have signed this offseason, this is built to flip at the deadline. And that's what we just went through, right? And if you like what Jed did at the deadline, I think in a vacuum, all those deals made sense, right? At the deadline, picking up, trying to restock the farm system. In a vacuum, that makes sense. I think what a lot of Cubs fans who are pro Jed in general, or very trusting in Jed, are overlooking is that Jed is who got us here. He is one of the people who got us here. He was number 2 in command behind Theo Epstein. And I'm a little hesitant to be patient with a guy who's been here for a decade and was part of the mess he's telling us, he and ownership are telling us that they have to deal with in this way. And it makes me question where our standards are as Cubs fans, I think. Because I don't want to be a hater, and I don't want to go into this season extremely mad, but I also don't want to be sitting here with the 4th most valuable team, according to Forbes, and a team that has acted like it's about a third of the way down the league. Like I said, the Ricketts, since they took charge, this team is 10th in payroll, if we count all the time that they've been in charge, okay? So let's, in terms of their rankings, going back year by year of their run, 10, 6, 2, 4, 8. That range sounds right. That's where you should be as the 4th most valuable team, even though they only went over that rank in payroll one time. 10, 6, 2, 4, 8, 14, 13, 23, 14, 15, 6, 3. And that 3 was when they bought the team. And that was just what was on hand at the time. It was a real piece of shit old team at that point in 3rd. And they got out of that quick. But you listen to those rankings. They're sitting here at 10th. And I don't want to make excuses for this general manager, for this team president. Carter, I'm sorry, new GM Carter, I cannot blame you too much for anything yet. But for team president Jed Hoyer and the Ricketts family, if we're really okay with not filling that shortstop hole, with not coming to an agreement on an extension with Willson Contreras, one of the remaining plus players that this team has still in his prime, if we're okay with that, and not coming to a single agreement with any of the core outside of Kyle Hendricks, which was great, and David Bodie. Those are the 2 guys that Jed Hoyer and his team were able to ever extend. If we're okay with this, it feels like we're deciding to go back to old school Cubs loser mentality. And like thinking we're not worth what we are as a team and fans. Like, do we have a self-esteem problem here that we're going to make excuses for Jed Hoyer and the Ricketts family year after year? Oh man, they couldn't, they had to sell off. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't contend. This is the thing. You can look at it at any one moment and say, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that they all sold at the deadline. But now you're giving them credit for their own failures. You're giving them excuses for failures that they created. And I think the turning point was 2018 going into 2019, that offseason. You guys remember, it's the Harper Machado offseason. The Cubs are coming off a 95-win season. I think we tend to not remember it as positively as it actually was because of how it ended, right? The Brewers went absolutely beast mode at the end of the season, just never lost. Christian Yelich went nuts. That was the year Javi finished 2nd in the MVP behind Yelich. Who mysteriously hit so much better at home. But the Cubs tied for not just the division, but the best record in the National League that year, 95 wins. That's when Theo said the offense is broken. And I don't know, guys, I feel like Bryce Harper could have been afforded then. I mean, we know he could have. We know the team could have afforded him. And that was the time to bolster that team. The offense is broken. I don't know. Let's add an MVP who will soon win MVP again at that point. That seems like what the move should have been. And as we all know, it wasn't. And in hindsight, that is the offseason. And you could say Manny Machado, too, I think would have helped that team quite a bit. That, in hindsight, seems to me to be the turning point, where this team decided that they weren't really going to go all in again. The payroll was high, sure. But if you're the Cubs, This isn't the Cubs of the 80s, folks. Like, we should expect to act like a top of the market team because that's what this team is. And that was the season that you were supposed to go in, push harder for one more title, at least one more title. And I think if you have Harper Machado on that team, last year doesn't happen like it does, right? We don't end up with that kind of a sell-off. Maybe you trade some pieces, but you find a way to bridge the gap. Maybe you extend one or two of the other members of the core. Like it just seems like all the teams that want to win, guys. I know people are sick of a good number of people are sick of the old era, the old core. It seems like a lot of teams that are better than the Cubs right now think those players are valuable. So I don't know. I think if winning teams want your players, I think that may be a sign that they're good players, even if maybe you need to change the mix of them. So we're sitting here now, a team that since 2018 has not come through in a way that I think we should expect as fans. We should get to expect this as fans of what is supposed to be one of the premier teams in the major leagues. We should expect them to act like it. And this offseason, sitting here, they made some good signings, spent some money, but they hadn't spent any money. They had no money on the books, so they had to spend up to a certain point. I don't think we should give them too much credit for getting to 165 with a $230 million ceiling. That's a fake cap anyway, really. And you want to know how fake it is? Go look at what the Dodgers are doing, what the Yankees are doing. And I'm not saying the Cubs should have blown by that this year, but pick any star you want. Seager, Javi, Semien, any star, add that to this payroll. What do you get? You're still $30+ million under the fake cap. And I think that is where our expectations should have been coming into this year. And gosh, I am such a prospect nerd. I'm so excited to see the Cubs farm system get better and better. I'm excited for a lot of guys there, but sometimes I feel like we really are regressing to old school Cubs fans where we're overrating the farm system with hope with hope that isn't backed up anywhere because there's nothing that we're seeing exciting at the major league level. I mean, the Cubs do not have a premier farm system right now. There's guys I'm very excited about. There's guys we should all be excited about, but this is a mid-tier farm system right now. Maybe it's creeping up towards the top 10, but that you cannot put all your hopes on that. And the problem is, I think we now have to, seeing how this is going with Willson Contreras. If Jed has no interest in keeping Willson Contreras around here, this isn't just a losing 2022. This isn't going to be a winning 2023 either, unless something insanely different changes. And I think at some point you should believe what you see, And so I'm sitting here, I'm 39 years old. I love the Cubs. I'm going to watch the Cubs all the time anyway, but I'm a sicko. I'm doing this by myself today, talking about this. Follow us at Away Games Pod on Twitter and all the things. I'm sitting here wondering how much of my time and money is this team worth? This is the worst I've felt as a Cubs fan since 2010. Because even in those bombing out years when Theo came here, we knew there was nothing in the cupboard. The Cubs had nothing to build around in 2011. So I was all in favor of tanking then. And they're not tanking right now, but they're doing just enough to seem like they're going to try to contend in what is baseball's worst division. This division sucks ass, guys. The Reds are bad. They're trying to sell everybody. The Pirates, they basically they're the kings of tanking lately. So you got two teams tanking, and you look at the Cardinals and the Brewers, and that should not be out of reach. And I think the Cubs have locked themselves into just a solid middle three. I would love to be wrong about that. But I'm sitting here now wondering how much of my time and money is a team worth when I'm 39. This isn't going to be contending in a way this team should. I don't think this year, and it seems like if they're moving the way that everything's hinting towards, I don't think they're going to contend in 2023 either. Now, how this changes, to me, you can change it very quickly. If you extend Willson Contreras, commit to keeping that leader around, who's elite at the position. That's one position, one of the most important positions you can have on your team. And when I think about Willson Contreras, it's not just the player, even though if we're talking about winning, that is the main thing to be concerned with. This is a guy who does so much work with the Special Olympics, who has improved himself in a way almost no catcher in the league has been able to improve themselves. The way he improved his framing and his overall defense. We know he's got that gun of an arm and always has, but to just improving his game overall. And I think of when the Cubs, in that turning point of when they lost to the Rockies in the wild card game, Willson was despondent, and Kyle Schwarber went over to comfort him, then came back to reporters and told us, "You don't know how much that guy cares." Kyle Schwarber was telling us, that guy, we all care, but holy shit, Willson Contreras is passionate about this team, about winning, about this city. And after seeing Rizzo, Bryant, Schwarber, Javi, after seeing the Cubs pass on all those players, seeing them just deal away Contreras, not come to a deal with him, for me, would be a bit of a last straw. Maybe Adam will find a new podcast co-host. But if they extend Contreras, okay. Now, not just because of who Willson is as a player and a person, but now I'm starting to believe that maybe going into next year, even if you sell off relievers at this deadline and sell off some players, if you're keeping a core of a Willson, possibly Ian Happ to go with Stroman and Suzuki going into next year, now maybe I'm getting excited about, okay, well, we've got Xander Bogaerts, who could possibly opt out over there with Boston. Xander Bogaerts could fill that shortstop hole. We've got Trey Turner. I mean, do you go all in on Trey Turner? But now, just that one move alone would make me excited, I think, to be a Cubs fan for 2023 again. And there's players I think we can all be very excited about going into this year to watch. I really hope the depth starter signings don't take away Justin Steele's opportunities as a starter. I just really think, as you know, friend of the show, but I really think there's something there and there's something exciting, and I would love to see that. Brendan Davis is going to be up before the end of the year for sure. These are exciting things. Caleb Killian is going to be hopefully up this year too, and I think that could be a real that could truly be a sneaky impact starter, a guy they got in the Chris Bryant trade. So there's stuff I'm really looking forward to this year, but I think for me as a fan and how the kind of trust I'm going to put in this team going forward, it hinges on this Contreras decision. And it's not feeling great at the moment, and I'm sorry for that bummer, but I hope we can turn that around and have something truly fun to announce sometime soon. So I'll end that sort of introspective rant here for you guys, but follow us on Twitter at AwayGamesPod. Please check us out there. We're going to be following this team. We're going to be doing podcasts every week. The Away Games, whether I'm here or not, Away Games is going to be around. So please do follow us on Twitter there. Give us a review if you don't mind. And again, download the DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook app. Use promo code AwayGames. Bet $5 on any team of your choice and get $200 in free bets instantly. That simple with promo code AwayGames this week at DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook. Thanks, everybody. Go Cubs.